This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm delighted to be joined by Stitch Duran the day after a fantastic fight between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, which ended with Tyson stopping Deontay in the 11th round. Stitch, first of all, congratulations. You're obviously heavily involved in that team, in Tyson's Cutman. Just take me back to last night and your recollections of what was a fantastic fight.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Andy. Good seeing you again, brother. You know, I wouldn't leave the house. Normally it's a day of rest for me, but when you called, I came down and be glad to do this interview. But yeah, it was a special night for sure. You know, just the excitement, the drama, everything that went with it. You know, and then to end up with a victory, couldn't be any better.
Talk to me about the build up to this fight week, Stitch. I know I only saw you on Friday, but when you was with Tyson, did you feel a different energy about him? Did you feel like he wanted to make more of a statement this time around, or could you ever imagine we'd have seen the type of show we saw last night?
Right. Well, you know, it was a little different on this camp here. I didn't show up. I wasn't there. Tim is his manager, agent here. He called and said, look, man, you know, because of this COVID and what had happened, would you mind if, you know, they want to minimize the training camp? And I said, look, it's fine with me, which worked out great anyway, because my son had moved to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and he was going to go through inauguration. So we already had vacation planned before Tyson got COVID the last time. So it worked out perfect. And then I saw Tim at the weigh-ins, and I understand. You know, we all got to be careful in what we do here. But I told him, he said, you tell Tyson that I'll see him in the dressing room. And of course, when I saw him in the dressing room, we went through our protocol of what I'm going to do with him.
We saw Jay Diaz watching the hands get wrapped again yesterday. Obviously on the back of the allegations and what have you were going on throughout the week. What did you make of seeing Jay back in there, knowing he was there last time when Tyson had his hands wrapped?
Yeah, you know, is once again, out of the whole night, I worked 4 fights. Robesi Ramirez and Jared Anderson and Effie Jacaba. And so when it was time for them to wrap hands, I was working a fight. So I didn't get to see that, but what a nerve. You know, and you know, you try to, I didn't know that till just now, but you look at the mental game of the process and, you know, do they try to distract Tyson Fury by bringing this guy in? Because Tyson kind of cussed him out at the press conference, and rightly so. He should have spoke up, right? But they should have sent in Don House. Don House is a guy that I've worked with many, many years in the UFC, and he was probably the most knowledgeable guy there. They should have used his experience, and they didn't. As a matter of fact, I text House when I saw the YouTube about the gloves being tampered, and I said, yeah, do us all a favor, because it's embarrassing to all of us that are professionals at the top level to have these type of accusations. And, you know, unfortunately, I don't think the camp used him as much as his skill level was available.
Stitch, I do want to ask you about the gloves. I saw a photo, I don't know how true it was, but apparently the gloves were cut open, or Deontay had insisted on seeing Tyson's gloves cut open because of a horsehair?
Yeah, you know, no, that's a process. Deontay Wilder didn't request that. That's a process that the Nevada State Athletic Commission does. They're the best in the world. I'll tell you why. You know, I know the guy that was there was talking about horsehair, right? Well, horsehair was used a long time ago with no sewing in between. Now they sew it in patterns. So before you could manipulate the horsehair, right? And but you can't do it on this one, because it's you got the horsehair, then it's sewn. You got more, and then it's sewn. So you have them in little squares. So, you know, and that's the thing that's embarrassing to these guys and irritating to guys like us, is that we're not here to cheat the game, bro. Especially at this level. You know, if you're a rookie, then, you know, might want to look for an advantage, but not when you're at the A level.
Stitch, moving on to the fight itself, a dramatic night of events in that headline. Just want to start off with kind of working through it. What did you make of Deontay's initial approach? We saw him trying to work the body more, trying to stay a bit lighter on his feet. What did you make of that?
Well, you know, and I knew Don House had made a report or interview that he was going to show him how to go to the body. But just going to the body with jabs is not going to the body, it's jabbing to the body, right? It's when you go to the body like a Mexican fighter, like Canelo, then that's going to the body, right? But it didn't surprise me. But I knew it wouldn't last, but it could be dangerous for him, because all Deontay Wilder had to do is throw a right hand off of that guy jabbing to the body. But, yeah, it worked for 3 rounds, and then he changed. You always get back that's the thing about these veterans, Andy. You could try to teach them, but once you get into the danger zones, you go back to what normally got you where you are there.
The third and the fourth round, Stitch, I'm sure many people will never forget them. We saw Deontay dropped, and I think everybody assumed Tyson would then go on to stop him, and next thing you know, Tyson's on the deck himself twice in that fourth round. What did you make of that? And also when Tyson came back to you in the fourth, what was his how did he look to you? Did he look okay?
Yeah, I always tell people you prepare for the worst case scenario, right? And in interviews I said, if it goes a distance, Tyson's going to win because he's the better boxer of both of them, hands down. But when it comes to who's going to win by knockout, I didn't want to predict none of them because they're both capable of doing that. Yeah, when he got knocked down, I think, okay, good. Let's hope Tyson keeps his composure and doesn't get overactive. But when he got dropped, and that was, of course, that concern that I always have. But when he got back to the corner, actually he was okay, but I told him in the dressing room, I said, look, I'm going to take care of you like you're my son, and that's what I do all boxers, right? But I'm going to keep ice on you every round to eliminate to minimize the chances of swallowing and what have you not. But when he sat down, first thing I did is I kept that ice on him, on his back, on top of the head, and you get those little sparks of change, and it kind of picks you up a little bit. So as we were saying goodbye, he gave me a hug and a kiss and said, man, thanks for the ice, So, it was a crazy night, man. I'm telling you, I've done a lot of big fights, but that one still has my juices flowing.
So I was going to say, you say you still got your juices flowing. Throughout all of your career, whether in boxing or MMA, where does last night stand for you in terms of events you've covered and worked on?
Yeah, you know what, I've worked a lot of them, man. I'm telling you, some where you just jump up and cheer and all that, but they just kind of fade away through memory, right? But Anthony Joshua Vladimir Klitschko was at that time was way up on top, right? Man, this one just kind of took it for excitement, and what a fight. It was literally a Rocky movie. You could turn it into a Rocky movie and the heart of the warrior.
How would you assess, Stitch, from your perspective, the relationship between Tyson and Sugar Hill, and how Sugar's managed to kind of bring out that more of a forceful and aggressive nature within Tyson? Because throughout his career, up until these last couple of fights, we've seen or been used to seeing more of a boxing style behind him and not looking to sit as much and to let his hands go.
No, Sugar's done a good job, but he's a protege of Emmanuel Stewart, and I worked with Emmanuel for 10, 12 years with the Klitschkos, right? So, and then Jonathan Banks also follows that format. So I understand that format, which is basic logic, right? Makes simple. How do we get the most out of you with what you have? And he's done a good job. But yeah, you were asking the first question, how's that relationship? It's like hand in glove. They're a good match for each other, and Sugar's quiet. His demeanor's a little mysterious and all that, but I understand, because so is Emmanuel Stewart.
Do you see parts of Emmanuel Stewart within Sugar Hill?
Yes, of course. Yeah. And last night, as I was saying goodbye, I said, look, you're the second generation I've worked with the Stewarts, so I understand that program. And when we did the first fight, Andi Lee, I worked with Andi Lee, as a boxer. I worked with Sugar. So when the three of us were in the corner, we're already mended.
Just a final thing on the fight before I do come on to a couple of other topics. At the end of the fight, Tyson went over to console Deontay, I imagine, just to wish him well and hopefully put any bad feelings aside to move forwards. And Deontay wasn't reciprocative. I'm losing my own words here, Stitch. But Deontay didn't want to kind of engage in a conversation with Tyson. He wanted to stay away from that. What did you make from Deontay not allowing Tyson to have a little conversation with him there?
I think his bell was still rung. In fact, I went to the corner and I looked at him, and I was going to tell the guys, get some ice on him, and all that. But I think his bell was still rung. But ego, I think ego is probably what destroyed him more than anything else. Is not accepting the facts and being reality. Reality is for real. But he always had that knockout power. So yeah, I was a little disappointed that it's a sport, and they're all gladiators, but they're all people. And after a fight, leave the grudges alone. And, Tyson did the right thing. Deontay Wilder, unfortunately didn't. So I'm just interested in see what kind of comments are going to be made the next week or two.
Is that something you're expecting, maybe some other accusations, allegations to come out? Because it was, again, something which was mentioned over social media in the immediate aftermath of the fight. People were suggesting there might be more accusations to come.
Yeah, I expect them. In the last fight, I did a lot of interviews regarding the tampering of the gloves, and I educated people. And the same thing, I guess I did another interview here, but on Instagram, this guy sends me a message and says, "Fuck you and Tyson," you know, and I've never gotten that kind of response, right? But yeah, I think it's still going to continue because that's the nature of their game.
Stitch, just final thing, obviously, I know you've got a lot of shows coming up over the coming months, but we had a brief chat off camera. We've spoken on camera before about your work going into the next Creed movie.
Yes.
Have you got anything lined up as to when your filming will begin for you?
Well, let me give you a little bit of the insight, bro, all right? So when they had the Tyson Fury press conference, I'm driving. I live here in town about 20 minutes from the hotel, and I'm driving and I get a call from Nicholas Stern, the executive producer of Creed 3. So, yeah, it looks like we're in. I think they start filming in January the 10th, I think, in Atlanta. And as soon as they get information for my role, then I'll get that information. But looks like I'll be spending, January and February in Atlanta. So, yeah, so here we go, man. You're the first Brit to hear that information.
I appreciate that as always, Stitch. Are there any other boxers or anything lined up to enter the new Creed movie?
Oh, yeah, you know what? I'll give you another scoop, all right? It's funny because Nick asked me, he goes, "Are you working with Berlanga?" And I said, "No." I said, "Mike Basil is a great cut man. He works with him and all that." Well, he's going to be in the movie, And so another little scoop for you, bro.
So did you have a little word with Edgar last night?
I did. When I was talking to Edgar after the weigh-ins, before the weigh-ins, actually, as they walk on stage, I see him backstage, and I'm talking to him, and he's telling me, that his position is going to be in it. But I told him how these guys are the best to work with. It's an adventure for us to walk into their business and do what we do. So I'm excited.
Right, Stitch, it's good to see you in such a good place, and it's good to catch up with you once again. I appreciate your time as always. Stay safe, and thank you for speaking to Boxing Social.
No, I will. Come on, anytime, brother. For me to leave the house right now, it means something to you. Here we go. One love.